Vince,
I knew it.
are you ready?
Always ready, baby. I come to the party ready. Let's go.
It's rapid fire time.
Woo!
Let's do it. All right, so question number one tonight. I promised this earlier. Both Marcus Freeman and Tommy Reese were asked this week if they considered bringing in a transfer quarterback this season. So do you buy or sell they should have brought in a transfer quarterback?
Obviously, hindsight is 2020. You were not anticipating your starter going down with an injury. You had 3 guys on the roster, 3 guys on the depth chart, 4 if you count RP3. But somebody said that JT Daniels wanted to come to Notre Dame. I believe that is true, but he also wanted to be guaranteed the starting spot, right? That's not what Notre Dame was looking for in the transfer portal. They were looking for a depth piece. Maybe they could have found one, but at the same time, I don't know that there was all that much out there that you would consider better than Drew Pine, for example. Like, I just don't – I don't buy that it would be something that would have benefited Notre Dame, because you bring in a depth piece, he's third string, and now he's your second string behind Drew Pine. Is he better than Steve Angeli? You know what I mean? Everybody seems to love Steve Angeli, so yeah, I'm going to sell it. I don't think that was a position where they needed to go out and bring in like a Jack Cohn, for example, to start. They had their starter. They had all the faith in the world in Tyler Buckner, and I'm sure that they still do, even though he's injured. But that wasn't going to heal any of the wounds that were in the quarterback room.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the balance of what's best for the short term, what's best for the long term. And, so short term, this would have obviously made a lot of sense because you get a quarterback with experience, just like you did with Jack Cohn last year. You brought in Jack Cohn. He beats out Drew Pine for the job. He's the starter. Now, Cohn had some of his own issues, but once they figured out, hey, if we run tempo, it's not as big a problem with, with the offensive line and all that kind of stuff. And, you were able to get Buckner on the field. Short term, it would have made sense to bring in an experienced quarterback, because if it's someone who had any playing time under his belt, any starts under his belt, it would have been more than either Buckner or Pine. Big picture, though, as a program, at some point, you were going to have to play a quarterback who didn't have any experience. It was only a matter of, was it going to be this year, or was it going to be next year or the year after that? Like, how long are you willing to keep jumping into, the transfer bin, to keep pulling quarterbacks, because you don't have quarterbacks with any experience? At some point, you were going to have to bite the bullet. Now, again, I saw a comment on this where, like, now, of course it would have made sense, because the guy who was supposed to be your future Tyler Buckner gets hurt after 2 games. His season is over. So you lose a whole season of experience that he was going to get, So the bigger picture, though, is after 12 years of Brian Kelly, Notre Dame shouldn't have had to be in a situation where they had to pursue transfer quarterbacks 2 years in a row. The bigger question to me is, why aren't these, and again, we can talk about experience and all this different stuff. Why aren't these young quarterbacks prepared to go sooner? Tyler Buckner got on the field. Did he run the whole offense last year? No. Did he play for 2, in high school at the end? No, because of the pandemic and all that stuff. So he hadn't played for a while. But Jameis Winston, Johnny Manziel, Bryce Young, these are all Heisman Trophy winners who came off of redshirt freshman years and won Heisman trophies right away. C.J. Stroud threw for 44 touchdowns as a redshirt last year. And the kid they're going to see this week, his first game was Florida A&M. He is this year. He did not play at all last year as a redshirt freshman. Drake May, 930 passing yards he has right now. That is 29 more yards than Notre Dame's entire offense has through 3 games. So it's not a problem at some of these other places. And that, to me, is the bigger question, is if you've got these talented guys, why aren't they ready to go sooner? Even if they're not going to come in and hit the ground completely running at full speed, they should at least be at a little bit higher level, I think, in terms of competency when they get out there as quarterbacks on the field when it's their turn.
Yeah. Well, no, you're right. And I don't have a rebuttal to all of that because I agree with you. The maturation process of quarterbacks under Brian Kelly has been terrible. I mean, it's been terrible. And I say it under Brian Kelly. I say under Brian Kelly because he was the one that was here. And now Marcus Freeman has nothing to do with the development of the quarterbacks. Okay. I mean, it's still a carryover from the last regime. So I'm not just banging on Brian Kelly. It's a problem at Notre Dame for the past decade.
No,
Okay?
yeah. And I'm not either. It's,
Yeah.
again,
So,
it's,
I want to say it sounded like I was banging on Brian Kelly. That wasn't really my intention. It's just that I'm not going to blame Marcus Freeman for the development of quarterbacks.
right.
He's the head coach for 6 months. So
Right.
it's a huge problem. And whether you, people in the chat, fans, whatever, whether you agree or not that JT Daniels is better than Tyler Buckner or whatever, that's not the point. The coaching staff decided they're riding with Tyler Buckner.
Well,
JT
and I agree that you should not.
starter.
Yeah, you should not, especially when you've got a guy like Tyler Buckner who you think is your future, and he's here for a reason as well.
Right.
And then you've got a guy behind him like Drew Pine, who was in a quarterback battle last year and has put everything that he has. I don't think you can make guarantees to outside guys who aren't necessarily slam dunks. JT Daniels has experience and all that stuff, and maybe he did, but I don't think you can make him a guarantee before he shows up here. I think with anyone, you're going to tell them, well, you can compete for the job, and if you're the best guy for the job, you'll get the job. I don't think you want to guarantee anybody anything before they even get on campus, though.
He also got benched for Stetson Bennett.
Yeah.
I mean, he was 100% healthy during the playoffs for Georgia, and they decided to roll with Stetson Bennett. Okay? Look, Stetson Bennett won a national championship. So, I mean, that's great for him, but are we going to argue that Stetson Bennett is like the second coming of a quarterback? I'm not. So we're going down a rabbit hole here, but at the same time, I don't have an issue with them not bringing in a quarterback.
We're at least we're on the same page with that. I don't think, because again, at some point you were going to have to play an inexperienced quarterback. It was only a matter of time. And so it would have been a Band-Aid, again, with the situation they're in right now. Yes, it would have been really great if you had an experienced transfer quarterback who had come in, but you were going to have to bite the bullet at some point. So I don't think that necessarily would have been the big picture answer to the problem that Notre Dame is facing.
Right. Agreed.
Okay. Notre Dame's defense caused 25 turnovers last season, but it has been well documented, Vince D'Addario. They have caused zero through 3 games so far. Over under 14.5 turnovers. The defense will force the rest of this season.
So 14.5 puts it at about 1.5 a game.
Correct.
Give or take. Oh man. They have shown, I mean, they had two turnovers called back, right? Because of penalty or because of a bad call or whatever you want to call that quarterback sack / fumble recovery, right?
But like I was thinking about those. Did they really, like the pressure at least forced the second one? The first one, when Bertrand's targeting was just a bad throw by Plummer. The worst throw that he made all day, right into the arms of Clarence Lewis. They really didn't force it.
They are not forcing any turnovers, and they're not close to forcing any turnovers, in my opinion.
Right.
And I would love to be the glasses half full guy here and be like, yeah, they're going to pick it up. They'll get 1.5 a game. That's not going to be a problem. The proof's in the pudding up to this point. They haven't been breaking up a whole lot of passes, right? There's been a couple of PBUs, but not like they just haven't dropped interceptions. They haven't, been ripping the ball out and just not recovering it. There just hasn't been, the defense just hasn't done it yet. And
not a lot of disruption.
Until I see it, I'm going to say under. I just don't see that being the case up to this point.
I have to say under as well. And I know a couple of people are being pretty optimistic. Now, Stanford and Navy currently both ranked near the bottom of the nation in terms of turnovers lost. So there will be a couple teams down the road who are turning the ball over quite a bit. But like you said, they are just not close to the kind of disruption, like anything that indicates it's only a matter of time. And again, I think it comes back to the linebackers and what the linebackers are able to do, because there's not enough disruption for them. They're not forcing bad decisions by anybody, or or stripping the ball away from ball carriers and that kind of stuff. Like you could see Isaiah Foskey on that one play where like Plummer threw the ball away, the one back by his own end zone, and Foskey was still kind of, trying to pull at his arm because he didn't realize the ball was away yet.
Yeah.
And Plummer's like, oh, he's pulling on my arm. Come on, Mr. Ref, give me. So like Isaiah Foskey's trying when he gets close enough, but there's just not enough right now.
Yeah.
To show that they're close to doing that. So I've got to go under as well. And
Scary.
and Indiana 8. Indy Nation. Yeah, I can. Yeah, we figured that out. Well, maybe you got it a little bit before me. Can we have one? Can we have one? Indy Nation says. I mean, that would be nice at this point, right?
Yes.
Like, again, like if you're going to talk about keys to North Carolina, if you can get a couple turnovers against North Carolina and not turn the ball over yourself, you're going to have a pretty good day, I think.
Well, I mean, the two that they almost caused in the last game would have ended the game. I mean, would have absolutely ended the game, both of them. So that shows you how powerful turnovers can be, and Notre Dame just isn't causing them when they need to. And, again, maybe they turn the page on Saturday. That would be fantastic, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah. Going back to the quarterback question, We Are Not Marshall says the big picture still isn't answered. Buckner is still a major maybe going forward. And that's right.
I agree.
And the reason is, and I think I mentioned this, is the fact that no matter what happened with this year, no matter what your record ended up being, at worst case scenario, you were going to get a season under Tyler Buckner's belt, a season of experience where he's reading defenses, making decisions, doing all those things, and then going back into the film room and, getting the correction and, all those different things. But he's not going to get this. He's not going to get that now. And that's why he is still a major question going forward, because it's a year of development lost because he's injured, unfortunately.
Right. And it just absolutely stinks because, maybe you don't win a national championship this year or you're in the playoffs this year, but you get 12 games of your starting quarterback who is coming back next year for his junior season. And then you got a lot more confidence, going into that season. Now Notre Dame's going to be back into a similar spot that they were in going into this season. Lots of question marks and quarterback being the number one. And we're not going to get any answers on Tyler Buckner for literally a year. And that's a really long time to speculate, and it'll generally be negative by the time we get there all the way around for fans. And so, it's unfortunate.
But you're going to have another question at the end of the year, and it's going to be, it'll be somewhat dependent on how Drew Pine plays, but there'll be another question. Should you be thinking about bringing in a transfer?
Well, and it'll be, are they bringing in?
You got CJ Carr as well.
Are they bringing in a quarterback at all in the 23 class?
Yeah.
I mean, right now, there's not one committed. So you're going to have to go get somebody.
I know. All right. Albert Pujols is 2 home runs shy of career home run number 700. Aaron Judge is 1 home run away from tying Roger Maris with 61 home runs for a single season, which is the most in American League history. Which of those 2 home run chases is more intriguing to you?
For me, I like the longevity one with Pujols. I've been paying attention to see if he gets to 700 because he's not going to have another opportunity to get to that number where Aaron Judge is going to have multiple opportunities to hit a bunch of home runs moving forward because he's a kid. I mean, he's going to be around for a long time. And frankly, 61 doesn't really do anything for me anymore. I realize that's the American League record. All I care about is the major league record, to be honest with you. And so that one doesn't really do anything for me. So as much as I am a Cubs fan, it's Wrigley Field back there. I mean, I despise the Cardinals with everything in me, but I do respect Albert Pujols, and I think that would be a really cool milestone for him to get. And so that's the one I've actually been keeping track of as opposed to Aaron Judge. That is
interesting.
Doesn't move the needle.
Yeah, I mean, both chases are really a little bit subdued, and this is like a baseball season. It's like, really, we're probably fortunate that these are going on right now because there's not been a whole lot else to talk about baseball wise. It's really like, especially from our perspective, really gotten lost because neither one of these guys is going head to head against a person to get their milestone. They're basically competing against the number that
Yeah,
they're trying to get.
true.
And so, like, on the one hand, yeah, I can agree with what you're saying about Pujols. There are only three other players who have, right now, only three players who have hit 700 or more home runs: Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, Barry Bonds. So, I mean, like,
Pretty elite club.
that's pretty crazy when you think about it. Very, very elite club. But like Judge's pursuit of 61, I think it means a little bit more to me because there are still also only four players in history who have hit at least 61 in a season. You got Bonds, and then, of course, McGuire, Sosa, and Maris himself. And it's crazy that record is almost 60 years old now in the
Yeah.
American League. And again, the way those other guys shattered it, I hadn't really even given thought that Maris's 61 is still the American League record just because, but then you step back and you're like, oh, yeah, those guys were all National League players. But
Yeah, I never thought about it until I read your question, if I'm being
yeah,
honest.
yeah. Babe Ruth once said, though, after he got to 60, he said, 60, count them, 60. Let's see some other SOB match that.
I
I
love
mean,
the
Babe
confidence
Ruth.
of Babe Ruth, man.
Babe Ruth.
Yeah,
So
good
to
stuff.
me, I think like the fact that it's a New York Yankee chasing the American League record that's still held by another Yankee. And to me, 61 was like still, that was the benchmark for so long. Maris's 61. And then, like, when that great movie came out, 61 asterisk, that Billy Crystal did about the chase, Maris and Mantle to get to 61. And you kind of
Yeah,
found
it's
out
a
a
great
little bit
movie.
more.
I do love that
Yeah,
movie. I will say
really good
that.
movie.
Yeah.
Yep. About Roger Maris. And, then we got the whole bombastic steroid era, that,
Yeah.
that blew everything up. So to me, I think like the fact that you would have thought, again, like we talk about these three National League players who are the ones who eclipsed the 61, you would have thought it would have been an American League player because, you can DH, you don't have to play the field every day and all that stuff, but that's not what it was. So to me, I go with Aaron Judge. I think that 61, especially since he is a Yankee with a chance to, to pass up Roger Maris, I think that's a little bit more intriguing to me.
Yeah, I get it. I see where you're coming from, but yeah, it's hard for me to root for anything Yankee oriented,
Yeah,
but
very
then
true.
again, I'm rooting for a
I'm not
Cardinal.
cheering
So
for him. I just
I
think
don't know
it's
what's
more
going on.
intriguing.
I don't know what's
Yeah,
going on with me. I'm rooting for Yankees and Cardinals these days.
that's
What's
right.
wrong with me?
That's right. On that topic, fill in the blank. As we speak today, Wednesday, Judge is sitting at 60. He just got his 60th. If he gets to Friday and he's still trying to tie or break Maris's 61, that game Friday is going to be only televised on Apple TV, not on local TV in New York, which is where, every Friday Yankees game has been this season. They've been on Apple TV, and that is blank.
Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious to me because
I love how your hatred of the Yankees, and trust me, I have Yankees hatred as well, but I like how your Yankees hatred just bleeds over into all these fans who can't even watch their guy
hey,
potentially, break a record like this.
and you know why it's hilarious to me? It's hilarious to me because you as a Yankees organization, it's obviously not the fans' fault. You made this deal with Apple TV, right? And you decided that all the Friday, who cares? It's just Friday games. Nobody watches on Fridays. It's no big deal. And now you've got a guy looking to break a 60-year-old record, and it's going to be on Apple TV. Sorry, should have thought about that. I have no problem with it. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The Yankees don't care. Major League Baseball doesn't care. They're screwing their own fans over.
Yes,
And that's
100%.
essentially what it comes down to. Because, like, tonight, ESPN is going to cut into every Aaron Judge at bat. So they'll
Yeah.
be able to, put them on ESPN. But Friday, they won't be able to do that because Apple has the exclusivity. So it's just, a class. It's great for Apple TV if they want to get some conversions in subscriptions, but it's bad for Yankees fans and, anyone who actually cares and wants to watch it.
And
It
that's the
doesn't
thing.
have
Like,
Apple.
Major League Baseball has a fan problem. That the average fan of Major League Baseball is getting up there in years. You need the young people. That's why they're going to the streaming side of things, and I get that. But now you're Xing out a huge number of fans that don't have Apple TV
Yeah,
to see this
that's
historic
exactly it.
moment. And it's
In a major market like New York and Yankees baseball, it's like
yes,
the baseball market in the country, and they're Xing out their own market
hilarious.
potentially
Hilarious.
on Friday. So we've got different spectrums on baseball talk. 99.11 Brian Wired, no more baseball. And then, of course, we are not Marshall. Love me some baseball talk. Driscoll, give these guys 2 hours a week. I don't really want to talk that much baseball, but we can talk baseball. It's like, and I get it. We're not talking baseball every night. So, like, this is literally in the last 6 weeks. These are probably the third and fourth baseball questions that we've had, and they come later in rapid fire. So cut us a little bit of slack here.
Gotta talk a little
these
ball.
these are major records and milestones that are potentially falling that we're talking about. We're not just throwing in, like the Cubs are in last place. What are they going to do? That kind of stuff. Like, the Royals fired their general manager today. Yeah. What's Kansas City get? We're not going there.
You care because you're a Royals
right.
guy. But you and I used to be head coaches. Both of us used to be baseball head coaches. So we got to talk baseball every now and again.
That's right.
And then it limit.
Well, it's actually Amazon Prime. I apologize. It's Amazon Prime, not Apple. I got my streaming services mixed up, but it is Amazon Prime.
Easy to do.
It shows what I have not been watching on Friday nights to kind of make my point. All right. Now we're going to switch topics to a different kind of football. Fill in the blank. It's blank that the fictional TV character Ted Lasso and his fictional AFC Richmond soccer team are coming to the EA Sports FIFA 23 video game.
Friggin' awesome. I think it's friggin' awesome. First of all, I love the show Ted Lasso. I know I'm not alone in that. And the fact that you could be that team and see Ted Lasso on the sidelines, I think is awesome. And if I still had a video game console, I would go buy the FIFA 23 video game right now so that I could play with AFC Richmond. No doubt about it. That would seriously, that one thing would make me buy that game. No doubt.
I agree. Like, I have never played a soccer video game. I don't even have a video game console at this point, but I would consider all of the above because Ted Lasso is coming. I love Ted Lasso. I love the show. Jason Sudeikis, 2 years in a row, has won the best actor in a comedy series. And Sean is a Stranger Things guy. That's true, but I also watch Ted Lasso. I watch a lot of TV, so it's not limited to one or the other. But I think that it's a pretty cool thing to as big as Ted Lasso has got. Apparently, you can select the Ted Lasso character as a manager in career mode. AFC Richmond is going to be able to play career mode, kickoff, online friendlies, online seasons, all that different stuff. And guys like Roy Kent and Jamie Tart and Sam and Danny Rojas, they're all going to be a part of the AFC Richmond team as well. Actual guys. Who is Ted Lasso? Craig says.
Come on,
Craig. I don't know if I can help you with that. If you do have Apple TV Plus, and it is on Apple. I know it's on Apple. It's a sitcom.
Yeah.
2 seasons old. Season 3 is supposed to be coming up sometime in the next few months, I think. Ted Lasso, played by Jason Sudeikis, former SNL guy. He was a college football coach at Wichita State, actually, in Kansas.
Yeah,
that's right. He gets hired in England to be a soccer coach, and hilarity ensues from there.
Yeah, because the wife was trying to run the program into the ground.
Right.
Because
she wanted to run it into the ground.
Yeah. Or husband who loved the team, and it just turns out to be a great shot. So,
but then Ted Lasso teaches us life lessons and comedy and everything in between. And one of the great scenes from season 1 is when he's like not laying. Well, he's sort of, he's like, it's for Ted Lasso, it was his form of the riot act. He doesn't yell at anyone. He's very easygoing and all that kind of stuff. Not what you would expect from a typical coach, but it's like the anti-Tommy Reese from the other day. But one of the players was basically being a butthead in the locker room, and so he didn't want to practice. And so Ted Lasso basically goes through the whole Allen Iverson practice speech, and the way they were able to work that in, it was almost verbatim. Like I remember there was a viral video where where it was like side by side. It was really good stuff.
Nice.
It's worth watching. Really, really funny series.
It's a good show.
Speaking of TV, last question for tonight. New Quantum Leap premiered the other night. We talked about it the other day. What'd you think, Vince?
I would say overall the jury is still out, but I mean, I really wish Scott Bakula was involved. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I know.
Really wish he was involved. And he put out a Twitter post that said, he's got nothing to do with the series, but he wishes them all good luck and all of those different things.
Because isn't he in like one of the CSIs or something like that, right? I don't know which.
The New Orleans.
There you go.
One, yeah. I think that one's over, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But I wish he was just making a cameo. They could have at least, I don't know, tied up.
We saw a hologram of him. There was a hologram of him. Remember it? And there was a picture of Dean Stockwell, right? So like the two main characters. And then they did. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and they obviously couldn't have Dean Stockwell back because he passed away.
He passed away about a year ago. Yeah.
And the computer is still named Ziggy. So that's, I guess kind of a connection to the older one. And I don't know. There's a lot of intrigue behind it. Why did he leap and all of these different things. And so, I mean, that part will be interesting. But I don't know. The jury's still out a little bit.
Yeah, it was a little flat to me because instead of Sam and what was Dean Stockwell's character's name? Do you remember? Al, thank you. Yep. Instead of Sam and Al, you had, and I don't even remember the character's name, but you've got a guy and his fiance play the same counter. So you've got a guy leaping through time, and it is his fiance. She is the hologram throughout this whole thing. I just felt like there was no real elevation to it, because like anyone who watched the original series, you're very familiar with it. It was just fairly flat to me. Like what was good about Sam and Al is, there was always some, kind of like a little jabbing humor and, back and forth. Now it took them maybe a little, a few episodes to get that going as well.
That's
but
fair. Al was a pervert. And so that was always fun,
That's true.
And Scott Bakula was always trying to, temper him down. He's like, come on, man. So, I mean, they had a great back and forth. You're not going to have that in a fiance kind of a relationship. And he doesn't even know that he was engaged to this lady because he lost his memory. So, yeah, I don't know.
The movie Vengeance on Peacock was pretty good, Stymie says. I know nobody has Peacock. I didn't realize that it was. I'm assuming that's the one with BJ Novak. We rented it on Prime, and it cost way too much money, and it made my wife mad. But I wanted to see it. It was a pretty good movie, though. I thought.
Vengeance?
Yeah, okay. Vengeance is what it's called. Yeah, it's about a guy who's a podcaster who kind of had a hookup with a girl when he was living in New York City. She's from Texas. She gets killed. And the family thinks that, like they were closer than what they were. And so he goes out to Texas and ends up kind of helping solve the mystery of what actually happened to her, that kind of thing. There's some humor, but drama and, whole thing. As for Quantum Leap, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 10 right now. Room to grow, maybe 5 at best. Nothing really. Again, it was just pretty flatline for me. I'd like to see. I think the writing needs to be punched up a little bit. I want to know how long I've got to wait until the Joe Montana episode. Because that's kind of probably where I'll give it to the Joe Montana episode and see what happens.
And they didn't show where the best cliffhangers from Quantum Leap was he would leap into the next episode essentially.
Right. So you could see,
I got to see that one. They didn't even do that. Like they didn't even do the classic, So.
Right. I agree. All right. Well, that is going to do it for tonight. Thanks to everyone who jumped in here with us on the old YouTube channel tonight for all the questions. We'll have more tomorrow. We've got some breakdown. Jesse will be back. We'll break down some Notre Dame, North Carolina matchup stuff after some of the the stuff that Jesse broke down last night. Salty Virginia. You're right. You're right about that.
I thought that was great.
There's no doubt about that. And like if you ask if you ask my family, when they ask me to grade something, I am a tough grader, and they always kind of roll their eyes when I give the grade. And then I'm like, do you want the truth, or do you want, me to fluff it up a little bit? I'm going to give you
We
the
Are
truth.
Not Marshall has a really good point here. Can NBC reboot all the great shows and completely destroy their legacy? They've done a pretty good job of that with MacGyver, Magnum PI, and now they're attempting to do that with Quantum Leap. So
that's very true.
Not wrong.
The show that is not streaming anywhere that I want to see. Did you ever watch Ed?
Oh, yeah. The bowling alley lawyer?
Yeah. The bowling alley lawyer guy. And Julie Bowen was on it before Modern Family.
Yes.
It was on for like 3 or 4 years. And first they had a Foo Fighters song as the intro. And then I think the music rights it's not streaming anywhere, but that was an NBC show. And apparently, like I've read that if there's a show that you really love, then it's not streaming anywhere. It's probably because of the music rights. And that's what I've heard, like that it's with edits because of the music rights. It seems like it would be an easy edit to just take out the music and overdub it with some new music.
You would think.
And get Ed. I want to see Ed streaming someplace.
What you want. Okay.
It needs to happen. I don't want a reboot of Ed. I want the original Ed from 20 years ago with Julie Bowen. All right. That's it. That's our TV talk is done for the night. Vince,
there'll be more.
You and I will be back Saturday. IB Countdown to Kickoff. I probably held you too long because you got to go work a concession stand.
So hand out hot dogs and popcorn and whatnot.
Go put on Dark Helmet. All right. We'll talk to you tomorrow. IB Nation Sports Talk.